what would even indicate that we're even in a dream at all? That there's some sort of simulation or another process going on that's a level up from where we are, one that we're not aware of. Is this a chicken and egg thing? In other words, am I manufacturing my narrative, or is the narrative manufacturing me? So regardless of your posture, your opinion or attitude about things that line up in remarkable ways, Carl Jung says it's these numinous alignments are called synchronicities, and synchronicities are proof of a realm that's beyond us that we don't understand, an informative realm. There's something beyond us, and we function so much as though this is the only thing there is, and we have a course coming in saying this is not the only thing there is. Beyond all that business of, let's say, just things lining up, there's my personal life. Let's dial it towards the personal ruts, patterns. They go past the quest for the gold watch or security or certain things. When you're in those situations, you might say to yourself, there's no reason this should be showing up exactly the same way when all the circumstances around it are completely different. Now, the examples of this are infinite, and you'd have to get into your own life to figure out what those patterns might be, or, and it involves some examination, maybe even a little note-taking. But I'm going to simplify it down to two basic things: a fact and a creative choice. Things happen. The fact is, things happen. And the creative choice is, they happen like that because they had to. Now, the reason I say that's a creative choice is because many times we either accept that they happen that way or that we might have been able to change it. I've had so many conversations where if only it had been different, then my life would have turned out differently if I had been in a different circumstance or had known different things. But the fact is, it did happen. And isn't that all there is to it? Why doesn't that put it to rest? Why do we second guess what happened to us before? Well, that's not all there is to it. Really, saying it didn't have to happen means it could have been different, which gives us this other feeling. It feels fatalistic to say we are stuck with the results. It feels like a prison. We want to feel free. We feel free by maintaining a caveat in the mind that the past may be fixed historically, but we can change it by learning to do different things which change the outcome only in intent. As though I now can refigure my past in my present. It's the famous parents that are preaching at their kids, and they had their life, and they're going to tell their kid that they should do it differently, even though they did it exactly the same way. The dilemma of that as a parent preaching at people who are busy making tons of mistakes that they shouldn't be making, even though I made those mistakes and everyone before me made those mistakes. Strangely enough, or predictably, you decide the patterns we're talking about, the synchronicities, the historical loops and ruts, those things actually defy our ability to do it differently, even in the gauzy realm of our intentions. We make our best decisions. It's science fiction at best to analyze some outcome and then fix it with what we have learned after that outcome. It simply can't work that way. Talk about cart and the horse problem. Despite the trope, learn history so you won't repeat it, we do repeat it because everything we do is in a now. We don't make our decisions based on history. We make it in a fresh place, and there's no accessible precedent. If you really think about what we're doing time and time again, even if it's deeply in those patterns, it's in a fresh spot, and we're like in a Twilight Zone episode. Circumstances seem to keep forcing the same situations on us, even though they always seem new at the time they present themselves. Maybe they're lessons. Maybe those people and the circumstances that we're in are teachers. Or weirder yet, maybe the people and the circumstances are just one teacher fragmented into so many faces that are coming at us. And it's really just one voice. And that's why it is the way it is. But the fact is, from my perspective, your perspective, within this thing that we're going to call a dream, we don't know what's doing it. We don't know what's doing it to us, and we don't know what's presenting these things to us. So we're back to square one. So what? It seems if life is but a dream, then all there is to do is to keep on singing our little part and make sure we don't miss a beat. There's nothing to understand. Nothing can be done about it. Now that is fatalism. That truly is. And the point of A Course in Miracles is that something can be done about it. Let's look at maybe there's an anatomy to the dream. Think about it. We're awake in our situation, apparently. To the best of my ability, I'm conscious, I'm alert, I'm making decisions. But I'm in a situation that I didn't have anything to do with. Very, very little to do with it. It's true I made some choices, but the big factors for what era I'm in, or what society I'm in, or what my genetic disposition is, or racial inherited characteristics, whatever. I didn't have anything to do with that, not even the parentage that I came out of. So that very, very much I'm like a dream figure that drops into a situation that he's unaware of. It had a past before him, and it has a future after him, and he's somehow in the middle of that. The dream figure is, and he's awake, and yet, in a sense, he's in a situation that seems impervious to consciousness. It's something that's unchangeable, fixed, something he's not aware of. It's exactly like the dream, and we're in exactly the same situation. Dream figures function in a world that's somewhere beyond what they can comprehend, and they don't even necessarily they don't waste a thought on wondering what they are in the situation they're in. They're awake in something, and they have no choices. Their only purpose in this whole thing is to react to things that happen to them. Their cause, where they came from, is an unconscious person sleeping. That's true of our dream figures. I'm fast asleep making no decisions whatsoever, and yet whole populations and plot lines are emerging out of this. Those figments of my imagination cannot meet me. They never will meet me, because as soon as I wake up, they're gone. The longer this person sleeps, the longer I sleep, the longer those dream fragments survive. They don't think about that, but it is the purpose of the dream to keep the sleeper sleeping. That's the purpose of the dream. Dream characters can't change anything about the dream, regardless of their choices. There's nothing they can do. But they can appeal to a different level in the dream by waking themselves up to their illusory status. Now, in some ways, this revisits the idea of the lucid dream. And I don't even want to suggest that as a strategy, that as though I, as a fragment, can wake myself up. Pain and suffering seem to accelerate the process of change in dream content. But nobody wants to suffer. So I can recognize life as suffering, like Buddha said. And it's the only way, that suffering, pain, seems to be the only way for the dream figure to truly learn his nature in the dream. But the dream fragment, the dream figure, is not the dreamer. Even though it might look like the dreamer and act like the dreamer and have the same personality, it is a dream ego that goes away when the dream goes away. And the Course is giving us a way to have the dream fragment meet the dreamer. My life is a continuous narrative, and I will do everything I can to make it a continuous narrative. But within that continuous narrative, notice punctuations and changes. Note them. Say what they are. These start to give you a clue as to what the dream is, because I'm going to say that there's some things in common to the deals that wake you up, to the situations that do that. Then suspend judgment as to what went on, what's right, what's wrong, who is the good person, who is the bad person, who's the victim or the perpetrator. You have to put all that on hold. Suspend judgment as the second thing. So the first thing is you want to wake up the dreamer by looking at the events in your life for meaningful change content. And then the second one is to suspend judgment about what that was, whatever it was. Look at all of them, and it's a play. The whole thing is a play. And try to give it a name. Give it, like what's been the nature of those changes and the things that have happened to you. And how would you call it? Call yourself a dream hero. You yourself in the dream. You're the center of all that action. Even though I'm only a dream fragment, I am the center of that entire narrative. And then I can describe what that dream hero was scripted to do, not what you were supposed to do, what you ended up doing. As an example, in my life, I find myself cutting corners. The normal thing says, go straight, make a left. Mine has always been, well, maybe there's a diagonal, and sometimes I've wasted a lot of time in that. That's just one small aspect of many, many aspects. So find those characteristics in yourself that where you've been a certain kind of a person in your dream. The dream has a name, and you're a certain character within it as a hero, trying to, let's say, beat the dream or be beaten by it, depending on what kind of novelist you are. Then you got to be honest about this without any emotion or criticism. You label the hero, label him, winner, loser, underdog, victim. Was that person vengeful, ignorant, a pawn, streetwise, a survivor, or just long-suffering? And then you have to be creative and fearless in giving that dream play and the character some real meaningful shape and content. Then there's a hint in this. You examine the other characters in the dream. All the people have come at you, that the teacher or the person that was in the car wreck or the doctor or the wife or child or whatever that meaningful interaction was, and it could come from any angle in any place. They are telling you who you are. It's not direct. It's not like a list. This is what you are. But in a very literal way, they've been telling me as a dream figure what I am all along. And that's why I don't like them. That's why they're there as fragments, because I don't accept that about myself. And so it comes to me from the outside as a dream the brother, as it says in A Course in Miracles. We don't want some idea about myself beyond what I already have in my head. But, let's be kind. The reason for that is because I am a dream fragment and I want to execute that role. And that role requires me to have a certain amount of ignorance about what I truly am. And the dream is coming at me to let me know what that ignorance is, okay? I don't want to call it ignorance, but the dream is coming at me to let me know what it is so that I can wake up from it or change it or want to change it. People that I hate, or, just give it some simple shorthand. People that I hate or that I don't like or that I want to get away from are telling me things about myself that I don't want to know about myself. And then people that are heroic or particularly lovely, they're also telling me things I don't want to know about myself. Because I'm a certain, sweet spot in this whole picture, a certain kind of ignorance that doesn't want to know my good stuff, doesn't want to know my bad stuff. It only wants to know enough about me so that I continue doing my role again and again. Then there are random encounters that you have that give new insights about who you are as a dream hero. And these could be either beneficial or corrupting. It just depends on your dream. It's not like it gets better. Some of these people come in and they corrupt you and they take you down the dark road. And that's part of what your dream is, so that's why it's good to wake up to the dream. You can say, wow, we're on our way up or we're on our way down. The point is to get out of the dream. Up and down are the same thing. Any labels and observations mean absolutely nothing about your value or your worth. In other words, you call yourself worthless, it doesn't mean you're worthless. You call yourself a hero, it doesn't mean you're a hero. Every dream hero plays his part to maximum benefit to the dream and for the unconscious dreamer. Some people get abused, killed, manipulated. Some do the abusing, killing, and manipulating. It doesn't mean anything beyond being plot points in a particular play. Some all-conquering hero is not different than a perennial loser, somebody that just loses again and again, or they can't get it together. It doesn't matter. It's just dream figures in a dream. And the idea is to get beyond the dream. The only way to judge it correctly is to notice that the characters do what they have to do to keep the dream a dream. As soon as you get into judgment, you bailed out of that ability to judge your dream objectively. Dreams are supposed to keep the dreamer asleep. Freud said it. I mean, literally, Freud said that dreams are to keep you asleep. Now, let's say you're going through this process. You have your life dream. It has a certain sort of a name, plot points, and a summary of the characters that you've had, including yourself. Decide if it's a role you want to continue. Now, obviously, if you're going through the exercise, the answer is probably no. It's not really possible for the dream hero to change the dream or escape his role by walking out on the production. That'll just be more of the same plot line, and there will be a repetition of characters and roles that you can't escape from. To do any of this, one must contact the dreamer to allow another dream. This happens automatically by you or me waking up to the situation with no judgment, no complaint. The dream changes automatically. The dream changes automatically if I see the dream and I see my role in it. The dream changes automatically because at that point, it finishes. At that point, my dream character loses his reason and his role in keeping the dreamer asleep. When he loses that, he touches the dreamer. That's when we become the Son of God. When we forget and we lose interest in what our great important role was, the egoic, the laws of chaos and whatnot, when we lose that, the two elements that are apart from each other, there's an unconscious person that's spinning a dream, and then there's a conscious person who's trapped in a dream. When the unconscious person wakes up, and both people have their brand of unconsciousness, that unconsciousness goes away simultaneously. It's a very interesting situation. In summary, if we don't actively participate, find out how we are trapped as a character in a dream, which we did not choose, we will continue the long slog toward enlightenment. If we want to speed up that process, awareness of the dream scenario trap is the first necessary step. As long as I'm in the dream, I'll keep being in the dream. I have to say, it's a dream, see it objectively, notice that I'm trapped in a dream. Then I can move out of it. Recognize there are forces within that very dream that intend its continuity. These will actively discourage us from changing anything about the dream. In other words, if your practices are starting to work, something will let the air out of that tire, usually. That if your practice is starting to work, you're going to want to get away from it for some reason. There are no others in the dream. This is important to realize. It's not like there's other people. There's nobody out there to forgive. I know that it says that in different places. We have to understand what that means. As a dream fragment, yes, within the dream, there are people to forgive. There's things to do. There's things I have to do out in the dream like this. But as long as I view them as others, then I am still in the dream, functioning as the hero of the dream. As soon as I recognize the dilemma that I'm in of needing to act in a certain way, but recognizing that I'm really just acting within myself somehow. It's a way of looking at my thought, my role in the world. As soon as that happens, the dream starts to break down and things start to change. After all, fragmented thoughts in the form of other people and situations and places, that is the substance of the dream. The fragmentation is the very substance of the dream. We can say that the scattered elements of our lives, they might be the effect of the separation and all that sort of philosophical thing from the Course. We can say it. But the egoic purpose of it all is to cause that what we think, what we know we are, it's not what we just think we are. We have a sense of inner knowing, this is what I am, is to go along with the dream. And the temptation that the Course talks about is I have to proceed without being tempted into accepting that dream as having separate characters or parts. No matter how painful or insistent it is that I bail out of this practice of non-dualism, I have to stay with it, stay with it, stay with it. What does it look like? It looks like a person coming in from the outside that has such objectionable characteristics that I refuse to accept that they're redeemable. I refuse to. I just say they need to be reformed. You know, we're experiencing that politically in many ways. That is being trapped in a dream. No matter how objectionable that thing is, whether it's child abuse or some horrible person out there on the horizon, all have to be absorbed back in. All have to be absorbed like in. No matter whether it's, like I said, it's child sexual abuse or the bomb in Hiroshima. It's all happening within me. Now, somebody gets a hold of this and says that's solipsism. We got to get past that. It's not solipsism. It's trying to view the reality that feeds the dream that we're in and to try to react to that in a more skillful way, react within it so that I'm not just a rote dream figure being dreamed by someone else. I hope this was useful as a way to understand the topic of dreams and illusions in a practical way. Please comment if this topical exploration seemed to provide useful value in understanding A Course in Miracles, and feel free to suggest other topics in the comment. Thanks.